Let's go to Russell Wilson now in the Seattle Seahawks. Some good news after I'm just going to say, frustrating offseason for many Seahawks fans out there. Russell Wilson and the majority, frankly, of the Seahawks' top veterans have not been at Seahawks OTAs so far. They're kind of sticking with that hard-line NFL PA stance of not going to voluntary stuff. Wilson was in San Diego. I was training like literally down the road from the Seahawks facility, which was kind of funny to me. But Wilson, as he posted on his Instagram, he's flying back into Seattle. Now, the timing to me is very intriguing because OTAs are still ongoing for Seattle, which means Wilson, I don't think, is going to skip every single one. And honestly, I'm not concerned about Wilson skipping OTAs. As long as he's been involved virtually, there is going to be a modified offense being installed with new offensive coordinator Shane Waldron. So as long as Wilson has been involved and getting up to speed and the other guys have been doing the exact same thing, I'm not concerned there. I do hope that for Seattle's sake, there is a better Russell Wilson than what we saw down the stretch in 2020. The first 7 games, the man looked like an MVP. Complete percentage was 71.5, 2,000 yards, a blistering 26 touchdowns in just 7 games. Dude was balling. His adjusted yards per attempt was 9.38. That is an insane figure. It's a nerd stat, but it is indeed an insane figure there. The last 9 games, however, he struggled. The completion percentage dips down significantly, about 5%, right? The yards dip in, by the way, 2 more games. The touchdowns in more games basically get cut in half. Interceptions jump up as well. Now, offensive line play part of the blame there, but the play calling was iffy. There was a lot of blame to go around there. So for the entire season, Wilson put up great numbers. The way he got there, though, was a little bit frustrating. You would hope it'd be flipped in the end, right? So what is your confidence level, then, in Russell Wilson for this next upcoming season? Get your votes in for me. Rate it on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 being you are freaking out, you got no confidence, and a 10 being you think he's going to be the best quarterback in the NFL this season. Now, there are some key dates for Seattle around the offseason. OTAs continue from Monday, June 7th to the 10th. That is the final bit of OTAs for Seattle. Minicamp, for something starts earlier, but for Seattle, June 15th to the 17th. And then training camp coming up in late July. So at minimum, you'll see Russell Wilson right there for minicamp, which, by the way, is mandatory. One more note here, Bobby Wagner is also set to report again to Seattle. Much like Wilson and other veterans, again, he was skipping the OTAs because they weren't that important for a veteran and they wanted to see what the NFL PA stands. But Wagner, Wilson, and others, including Tyler Lockett, they'll be back and ready to go for Seattle. Let's chat about the Seattle Seahawks potentially going after Jurrell Casey, the former Denver Broncos defensive tackle. Floated out there by Jake Heaps of ESPN 710, who normally's got a pretty good feel for some of the stuff. Now, Casey was injured for almost all of 2020, so from a salary cap perspective, which does matter for Seattle, right, those of you who wanted Julio Jones, he should be cheap. And I think at this stage, even though I do believe Seattle could use some more depth on the defensive line at defensive tackle, it's going to have to be cheap. I think Casey could fill that particular role. Now, as mentioned, injured for most of 2020. Only played in 3 games. He didn't even look that great, frankly, when he was out there. Was potentially some decline starting to set in. Of course, there is the somewhat USC Pete Carroll Trojan connection there as well. But I am intrigued around the idea of adding Jurrell Casey. I don't know if you're ever going to get even 2019's version of him, where in 14 games, he put up 7 tackles for loss and 5 sacks. At the time, when Tennessee flipped Casey to Denver for next to nothing, I thought the Denver Broncos had a steal. And then Jurrell Casey got hurt, and Tennessee showed, hey, you thought we sold a year too early. Turns out we sold at the exact right time. But for Seattle, a team searching for, I would argue, some needed potential defensive line depth on the interior, I'm intrigued by this one. So what do you guys think? Should Seattle go sign Jurrell Casey? Get your votes in for me right now in the comment section. Type in Y for yes, or you can type in N for no. Now, as things currently sit on the defensive line, I think the three guys that I'm most intrigued by in terms of getting immediate snaps, Poona Ford, LJ Collier, and also Al Woods. Now, Ford in recent years has played more of that one technique role. Maybe you give him some more, three tech snaps on a rotation there. Rasheem Green and LJ Collier, more on Collier coming up. Both those guys are kind of defensive end, defensive tackle hybrids in terms of they're able to do a couple different roles on what should be Seahawks defense this year. Al Woods comes over from some previous spots. Kind of a 1-3 hybrid, I would argue, is defensive tackle 3 right now. Brian Monet can be a decent run stopper. Intrigued by Robert Nkemdiche? No idea if he's going to be good since he's never been good despite being a former first-round pick. But there is a lack of proven, reliable defensive tackle talent. I think Jurrell Casey, if he were to sign, maybe wouldn't be the number one defensive tackle. I would argue right now that's Poona Ford. Now, recent years he's played that one technique role. Jay Keeps also mentioned he could play some more of the 3 technique role. Maybe you see something like this where Poona Ford sticks out there on the field on all downs, not just more of a first and second down player as he's been at points in the past. 5'11", undersized, but is 310. That's a big boy in terms of the actual height there in the end. I am also very curious to see how LJ Collier ends up being deployed this year. Drafted as a defensive end, that 5 technique, that Michael Bennett type of player. He's played plenty of interior defensive tackle in the past for Seattle. I would not be surprised, and this is more of a projection thing, but I would not be surprised if Collier played a lot of just pure that 3 technique, that pass rushing defensive tackle role because of the lack of proven talent right now on that roster. And because from a first-round pick, you want to get him out there. Maybe you even see something like this. Collier plays some base defensive end on first downs, kicks inside on third downs and second downs to 3 technique heavily, sticks out there with Poona Ford. Maybe Poona Ford plays some 3 technique on base downs along with another run stopper like Al Woods or a Monet. It gives them some flexibility. But if they truly want another pass-rushing focused defensive tackle, someone who has proven he can do that at a higher level than, say, Al Woods, Brian Monet, Poona Ford, even LJ Collier, Rasheem Green. If you want a more proven pass rushing option, I think Jurrell Casey makes a lot of sense if the medical checks out and, of course, the cost is right.